Most Indians moving abroad say, we'll come back in a couple of years. Those couple of years turn into 5, then 10, then 15, and then a lifetime. You know, there's a concept of the American dream. For NRIs, it's Ghar Wapsi dream that eventually turns into what I like to call a deferred dream. A lot of NRIs say they want to move back to India someday. It starts with after paying off their loans and get pushed to after they have kids, which gets pushed to maybe after retirement or once their kids finish school. That someday often keeps getting deferred to some time in the future. Life abroad starts to feel more settled, kids get used to the culture and school, careers take off, and people grow comfortable with the lifestyle. Eventually, the idea of moving back feels harder, like giving up too much. The perfect time to return may never really come. What started as a real plan slowly turns into more of a comforting thought or a nostalgic dream. The emotional pull towards India can fade as the reality of uprooting and starting over becomes more complicated and India itself keeps changing. So what are the factors that make it difficult for NRIs to return to India and why some of them are able to make this transition? That's what we are going to be discussing in this video. Hi, I'm Priya from It's Okay Yaar, and this is our new series Decoded. And today I am decoding why most NRIs never return to India. Number 1, the economic and financial factors. Let's first discuss the primary factor, the main reason why most Indians move abroad: money and better opportunities. I will now talk about two different aspects within the economic factors. The first one is landing a job. A lot of Indians leave India because they feel there's a scarcity of opportunities, or maybe because it's extremely competitive, especially if they are talented but face issues like corruption, nepotism. Whereas someone said on the internet, jobs go to the connected, not to the qualified. Yes, the Indian economy is growing. It's the 4th largest in the world now, but finding a job in India can be tough, even for people with years of global experience. I know of a friend who was told during interviews that you are not Indian enough. You've spent too much time abroad and won't put in the extra hours if needed. And sometimes employers in India might prefer candidates with continuous local experience. On the other hand, the kind of exposure to cutting-edge tech or global networks available abroad can be a huge career boost. For example, I moved to the US because it gave me an opportunity to be amongst the decision makers, to work with the top executives of very large corporations, and opened up a lot of doors for me. Now, let's talk about salary expectations and the cost of living. This brings me to the second point: salary expectations, cost of living versus reality. Some NRIs, especially those in their early 30s, hope for high salaries, maybe upwards of 1 crore a year, but the offers might not match up. A lot of experts suggest that if you are returning to India, you should lower your salary expectations. Yes, some people may land big packages, but that's an exception, not a norm. However, people who've been earning more than 100,000 or 120,000 US dollars will find it extremely difficult to accept a package of, say, 25 lakhs per annum in India. And this is a major factor in deciding to stay abroad. When you compare average salaries for, say, a software engineer in the US, around 124,000, versus entry-level salaries in India at 3 to 6 lakhs per annum, the difference is pretty stark. And it's not just about earnings, but also the cost of living. Big Indian cities like Mumbai or Bangalore are getting really expensive, sometimes as pricey as Western cities, but maybe without the same level of public amenities NRIs are used. Which brings us to the next big factor. Number 2, quality of life argument. Okay, moving on from money, let's talk about something just as crucial: the quality of life and some of the systemic challenges in India. These are things NRIs often compare with what they are used to in developed nations. Number 1, infrastructure. Infrastructure is the first thing that comes to mind. My husband Darshan is from Mumbai and we visit Mumbai almost every year. He loves the city and, like many other NRIs, dreams of moving back there at some point in the future. When he moved to the US in 2019, he was quite confident about the potential of the city. He used to say, give it 5 years, the metros will be ready, the congestion will reduce, and the city will be like any other developed city in the world. And each year, I see his belief reducing just a bit. He gets excited at every new metro opening and then gets disappointed every time he sees images of new subways flooded during the first rain, or when he sees the entire city still dug up year after year. The same is the case with any other major city like Delhi or Bangalore. We've all heard cases about the traffic woes of these cities too. And while the US has its fair share of infrastructure issues, such as lack of public transport in cities other than New York, I can confidently say that you will find it really hard to find potholes on the roads in the US. And it's not just about roads and public transport. It's also about the lack of green or open spaces like parks and recreation centers that come under infrastructure. Combine this infrastructure with the high taxes most NRIs will end up paying after moving. To most, it will just seem like a bad decision. decision to move at this point of time. Which brings us to the next point. Number 2, work-life balance. Long working hours have traditionally been a part of the Indian work culture where you are judged based on the number of hours you spend at work versus how much work you can get done. Add long commutes in big cities and a super competitive environment and it's tough. Studies show Indian cities rank pretty low globally for work-life balance, with professionals working way more than any Western country. That relentless grind can be a deterrent for NRIs used to more protected personal time. While things are changing, Gen Z has become more vocal about this, but it's still far off from most NRIs' experience abroad, especially if you're returning from a European country. I have also created a video comparing the work culture in the US and in India and discussed multiple factors in depth. I'll link it here in the description. The next point under quality of life is governance. Things like corruption, bureaucracy, and red tape are cited as reasons people left in the first place. The frustration of navigating these hurdles is very real. I recently heard about a startup which had to shut down because they didn't get a license to build an elevator for a few years. There are many such stories, and we are all quite aware of how rampant corruption is at every level. When you're used to a more transparent system, this is a big disincentive. I'm not saying there is no corruption in foreign countries, there probably is, but not at a day-to-day level that it impacts regular people like you and me. And finally, the environmental concerns. Worries about clean air pollution and the general climate are significant. Poor air quality in major Indian cities is a serious health issue. This heavily impacts the quality of daily life and is a strong reason people, especially those with kids, choose to stay in cleaner environments. Now let's move to the next big parameter. Number 3, family and social readjustment. Beyond the practical stuff, the decision to return is deeply personal and often revolves around family and social life. One major challenge is reverse culture shock. NRIs may find it really hard to readjust to social norms and daily routines in India after being away for so long. We've spoken about it in some of our short-form content, but after living abroad for a while, your own culture starts to feel a little bit foreign. India has also changed quite a bit over the years, and the snapshot you carried in your memory might not match the current reality. And then there is the Samaj, which brings me to the societal pressures. Talk to any NRI woman who has spent at least 2 to 3 years abroad, and they'll tell you one of the biggest reasons they're not sure about returning back to India is the general attitude of our society towards women. A lot of NRIs feel out of place or subject to judgment about their choices, career, lifestyle, and even parenting. Some dislike what they see as judgmental society or things like moral policing. This can contrast sharply with the personal freedoms they've gotten used to elsewhere, and they don't want their kids to go through what they did. Which brings me to the next point, kids and their future. For many NRIs, the biggest deciding factor is the children's future. Parents worry about the educational and societal transition for kids, difference in education systems, bullying due to foreign accents, or language barriers. While they want their kids to have an Indian life experience, the perceived advantages of Western education systems like global exposure often lead them to keep their children in foreign schools. And yes, there are IB schools in India now, and most NRIs who return to India send their kids to these schools. But the bullying and some of the other barriers still remain. And finally, spousal preferences. If your partner is reluctant or refuses to move to India, then that can be a deal breaker. The career prospects in India, their adjustment, and concerns for the kids all play a huge role in that joint decision. Imagine someone who left their career in India, moved back to the US, navigated the career break, kids happened, and eventually they restarted their careers. And after a few years, only to give it all up again and start afresh in India. Most people will not be ready to make this sacrifice once again. And that brings me to the final and sometimes the most overlooked parameter. Number 4, the evolving identities and the long-term decision. As NRIs get older, their views on moving back to India often shift. Some are perfectly happy staying abroad. They enjoy a better quality of life, more privacy, and less stress. And while they may visit India often, they don't feel the need to return for good. Others do feel some regret, especially when they can't be there for their aging parents or miss the slower, more community-driven pace of life they associate India with. For many, moving back feels easier earlier in life. The longer they stay abroad, the harder it gets emotionally and practically. And our identities evolve, don't they? Most NRIs develop a more global identity, or the one that's more aligned with their host country. The India they left with is just so different from the India today. It might also be different from their own evolved selves and what they want from life. Some NRIs do return, hoping to leave their corporate grind, follow their passions, raise their families in a way that aligns better with their values. But even then, not all return journeys go back as planned. Many end up going back abroad because life in India doesn't match their expectations, or the challenges of readjusting is just too much. Over time, people get deeply settled abroad. Jobs, friends, kids in school, and finances all tied to the new country. The level of integration makes it really hard to uproot everything. For many long-term NRIs, especially those who become citizens elsewhere, staying living abroad becomes less of an active choice and more of a natural outcome of how their life has unfolded, given that foreign passport often marks the point where they quietly accept they are not moving back. So the decision to not return in India or to often keep deferring that dream is incredibly layered. It's not about a lack of love for India or their aging parents. It's a complex calculation involving career, ambitions, financial realities, quality of life expectations, family responsibilities, and the very real challenges of adjustment. The lure of a life built abroad with its opportunities and standards is strong, and for many, that established life combined with the perceived uncertainties of returning often tips the scale. If you are an NRI grappling with these thoughts, please know that you are not alone. These are valid shared experiences. So whatever your decision is or whatever you call home, it's okay, Yaar. So what are your thoughts on this? What factors weigh most heavily for you? I'd love to read your experiences and perspectives in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more discussions like this. Until next time, this is Priya signing off. Have a wonderful day.